So if you've been on Twitter, you've seen probably the Sonic parody posters, and they're so funny. I really didn't know what to expect with this movie. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. When I got invited to the early screening, I hadn't seen the first two Sonic movies, and I didn't have time to catch up on them before I went. So I went in completely blind, really not knowing much about this movie, and I ended up having such a good time. It's especially one I think that the kids are really going to enjoy. The kids in my audience were very quiet, and I can't say that that's normal, especially since I'd gone to a screening the day before for Paddington 3. And I love the first two Paddington movies so much, and with the third one, the kids were just so loud. The movie was not holding their attention, and I won't go into that. This isn't the review for that, but with Sonic 3, there was a definite difference. Obviously, kids are kids and they're still going to make noise, but they were definitely more invested in this movie, so I feel like it's definitely a good one for families to watch together. All the voice actors like Keanu Reeves, they all did a good job. It felt like it suited the characters well. Robotnik, I think he was such a fun villain. He was so campy and goofy and over the top, and that can sometimes really not work, but in this movie it just works so well. He was definitely the highlight of the movie for me. I think Jim Carrey just really nailed that role. He is so perfect in those roles where it requires you to be so over the top, like obviously The Mask and all of those types of movies that he's done. Though he's actually really good in those more serious roles like on The Truman Show as well. But anyway, visually, I feel like this movie looks so good visually. I will say the humour was hit and miss. There were some jokes that didn't really land for me, but a lot of them did. One little annoyance that I had is that I feel like there's such a trend lately of sympathetic, misunderstood villains, and 2 out of 3 of the villains in this movie were going in that direction. And it didn't ruin the movie, don't get me wrong, it definitely didn't. And I enjoy those sympathetic, misunderstood villain stories, I do, but I just feel like there's been such a huge trend lately of making everything grey. Nothing really is black and white, heroes and villains, and I'm a little bit sick of it. So I live not far from Sydney, and there used to be a theme park there called Sega World. I don't know if anybody else remembers that, but yeah, that was all I really knew about Sonic going into it, is that there was a theme park that I used to go to as a kid. But yeah, I found this movie charming. I think the storyline with Sonic was really interesting, and I feel like for someone like me who hasn't seen the previous movies, it was easy to understand what was going on. Shadow versus Sonic was an interesting dynamic in terms of seeing how somebody could turn out if they were essentially the same person but put in different situations in life. So basically the argument of nature versus nurture was explored here. So it had some pretty deep underlying themes for a kids movie. I think it had a good moral lesson for kids in not chasing revenge. There is a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene, so make sure you stay for those. All in all, I had a really enjoyable time with this one. I would go as far as to give it an 8 out of 10. So let me know what you think of this. Do you think it'll live up to the first 2 movies? I haven't seen them yet, obviously, so it's hard to say if this movie is going to keep the standard or if the first 2 were even better. Anyway, if you can subscribe, like, comment, all of that YouTube stuff, it really helps me out. I'll see you guys in the next video.